So do you want to start tonight?
Can do.
I'll let you start tonight. Hi, my name's Peter. I've been late and I'm going to start tonight.
I've forgotten how to do it. I don't really do these anymore, do I? You just replaced me.
You replaced yourself.
I know, yeah. Sorry, I can't make it. I can't make it.
You got a Golden Boy Tiff. Who else do you have on? Rye Davis.
Right.
Yeah, it seems
Something
like
Bundy. Have you ever done it?
Bundy did one with...
Yeah, Bundy's done one.
He did one with Tiffers, didn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, what episode are we on? 30. The big
Episode
30.
Wow.
Fucking
Happy
hell,
birthday.
mate.
It's pretty serious.
Isn't it? Ready then?
Yeah, ready. Are we ready, Jack?
No banging on the table.
No
No,
banging on the table.
fucking talking from here or talking right up there. And that's it, isn't it, Pete?
Yep.
Done.
So the format, as usual, start us off. How you got into your prospective trade, what led you, start to sort of where you are now, and then we'll ask you questions in between. Who wants to go first?
You haven't introduced
I'll go
anybody
first.
yet.
I'll go first.
Probably the guy who's actually a tradesman.
Trade legends.
And the key to it, introduce yourself.
Pete just like, yeah, the less amount of work I can do. Great.
I'll give it a go.
I'll do it. Adam AC Bespoke Carpentry, and then we've got Will from Verso. So just in case, Pete, there you go.
Adam and Will.
Adam and Will. Will and Adam.
My name's Adam. I'm a bench joiner. I live on the south coast of the UK. I am experienced in bench joinery. That's the main thing that I kind of mainly done. So I specialise in handmade fitted furniture.
I can't believe you just
Second
made him
flex
introduce himself as if he's at an AA meeting.
Yeah.
Tell us your name. What star sign are you?
Capricorn.
It's Capricorn. There you go, Pete. That's
It's
one for
your
you.
opportunity to sell yourself. Tell us all about it, where you know, what you do and stuff like
What's
that.
your name? Where you from? You're like Cilla Black. You. What's your name? Where you from? Sorry, mate. I'm just interrupting.
I specialise in second fix carpentry.
Yeah.
And I'm on Instagram, TikTok as well.
Yeah.
Bit of YouTube,
Yeah.
but YouTube Shorts. I don't do the long form.
Yeah.
And then I do snappy little videos of stuff like wardrobes, alcove units. I've done epoxy tables, so I do a lot of things. But I really try and specialise. But clients will come up to me and go, "I've got this really good job, Adam.
Yeah.
Do you want to give it a go?" And I'd be like,
Is there anything that they've asked you that you go, no?
Chopping boards.
I've said yes, yeah.
Do you get
I
asked for
tend-
chopping boards?
Yes,
No.
they-
I have
you're not-
done a chopping board.
Yeah.
But
I
they're
imagine
not-
that's the kind of thing people, you know, when you've done something, they'll say, "Oh, if you've got any offcuts, can you make me a chopping board?" Like it's the easiest thing for you to do.
Yeah.
It'll take you
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I think sometimes like you do get the odd one, but like chopping boards no.
Are you hedging your bets for a chopping board?
Yeah, I've made one.
Check your DMs now. You'll have 5 requests for a chopping board.
Yeah.
But you see, you know, you say you make like shorts and TikToks
Yes,
and
yeah,
reels.
yeah.
You see a lot of chopping board ones, and also where they make you do. You see a lot of videos where people put chopping boards together.
Yeah, and
Never
they'll
seen a
glue them
chopping
up
board.
and
You
they'll
get
make
so
them in the
many pieces of
hexagon shapes
timber.
and
They glue them up. They cut them.
Yeah.
Put them through
I've
a
never
plane.
seen one either.
I've never seen a chopping board.
And then
sure.
videos where they use resin to fill in the gap.
Yes, yeah.
They're
yeah.
rife.
Yeah.
No,
they are,
I've
they
seen
are
the
good.
tables. where
Yeah, I've
they
seen
do-
them. Like coffee
Yeah.
tables, and
Yeah.
like side units.
No, mate,
and-
chopping boards is where it's at.
There's a lot of competition though.
Is
That's
this-
the thing.
chopping boards.
Is this
Yeah.
on TikTok?
Yeah.
Mate, you've not looked. Anything carpentry related, the satisfying videos are the resin ones and the chopping
Well, the
boards.
resin ones because they always pour stuff in. They go,
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
It looks like they're making a chessboard. They use so many pieces of wood glued together and then they plane it down. It's a chopping board.
It's resin,
do you
like
know-
resin chopping boards, good content. They
Yeah.
always are. Yeah.
It must be easy, like an easy thing to do.
What resin? No.
No, like a chopping board.
Sorry. So yeah, chopping board. But if you add resin to it, it adds that little bit of extra. Like I did a poker table. Was my first one.
You know, I'm actually searching on Instagram for fucking shopping boards.
No, but they make some really cool ones.
Yeah.
The thing is, everyone loves to make them.
Yeah.
So it's a competitive market.
But the
chopping
thing
boards.
about what you do is it's
good
satisfying to watch the process, and it's really satisfying to see like you make something in the end of it.
Yes, yeah, and the finished result, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the content I normally put out is I try and get the whole lot in.
Yeah.
I won't do little snippets. So they'll just see me grafting, and I'll make like an epoxy table or
Exactly. That's
or
brilliant.
one of them.
That's a Union flag chopping board.
Nice.
But because the thing you've got is, you know, when you start off and it's a piece of wood, people are going to watch the whole video because they want to see what the final, what are you going to make out of this piece of wood, and they'll watch.
I didn't even realise chopping boards was such a thing. There's 39.
It's a massive, every woodworker when they're starting out, they want to do chopping boards, yeah.
And then, you know, I don't know, because I only did like woodwork at school, and you have like dovetail joints and stuff like that, which is quite satisfying to see one go together. But they do these really complex. They must be like Japanese.
Yeah, they put it through the table saw at like different angles,
and you
then
think
they
that's
kind of
never
like
going to
place
go
them all
together, and it just goes together.
and then they chop it up and they lay it the other way, and then it turns out like some crazy little chessboard thing. There's a few people that do that. I've never dabbled in that. What I tend to do is like I'll cut components and then screw boxes together and make really cool stuff out of that. That's what I kind of do, really. I just make cool boxes. Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
And no chopping boards.
No chopping boards, but I do the odd job. So someone will come up to me that I really want an epoxy table, and then part of me I'll get drawn to it because I'll be like, that'll be quite good content. I'll jump in the deep end. So. Yeah, I get clients that they get excited about certain projects, and they'll come up to me, and then I'll get excited about it, and then realise I've just accepted it. I'm like, this is going to be hell. I did an epoxy table recently, just not too long ago, and it was really hard, and it was like 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters, circular, full of resin, and it was dusty, loud. Didn't like it. Did a confined little garage where I work. Like I was just like, I'm never doing it. Dust gets everywhere. Like
I'm going to chopping boards.
Sawdust just slows down.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start playing around with resin dust, it's just like glues to you. So it's horrible stuff to work with.
And you see them do these crazy things, like they'll fill it with blue and then they'll put a line of white in, and they get hairdryer on it, and then like, make it look like the sea.
I've seen that. Yeah. People do that with paintings as well, though, don't they?
Yeah, but painting's not a trade, is it?
Controversial, Pete.
That didn't take long.
We haven't had a painter on, have we?
Yeah, we had Jen the decorator.
Oh yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jen.
And we've had a few.
Pete just decimated.
You can't. You said painter, not decorator. That's different.
Is it?
Yeah. If you can fish, you can paint.
I don't know about that.
I've got a few members of staff that will prove that wrong, because I'm pretty sure they can all piss, but
They can't paint.
They've proved many a times when we decorate the office off, they cannot paint.
It's true.
But when we talk to other trades, the number one thing you say, if you weren't a plumber, if you weren't an electrician, what would you be? Is what you do.
Everyone
says that.
I'd be a stonemason if I had to choose. Yeah,
Like Rach.
Yeah.
It's very different, but I've always just thought the satisfaction of carving something.
I think
out
that's
of
the
stone.
reason, the job satisfaction, standing back, looking at something. Like Rach, the ginger mason, she gets like a block.
Lincolnshire Cathedral.
It's in a cathedral, and she has to carve it to replicate like a 10,000-year-old piece of stone, and it must be like the most satisfying thing. And they get time, don't they? I don't know. They know what they're going to be doing for the next 50 years, she said, but they get this stone, and literally the job is to make that look like that. You're not got a time limit. I guess they're not like
unless the thing's crumbling down.
It must be such a nice thing to do.
Yeah. I think that the thing is with a lot of jobs, like you can take on big ones and then realise that I've got to get it done in a certain amount of time. So you kind of speed up.
So do your clients then, when they ask you for stuff, like do they have an expectation? Think, oh well, it's only an epoxy table, it should take you a week.
Some of them do, and it's hard to. And I think the thing is with bespoke, it's always a tricky one because there's so many aspects you've got to take into it. I think with like, say if you're doing tile and stuff, you kind of work out square meterage quite well or whatever. Whereas like you're doing bespoke work, you've got like so many elements in it, like how to make the doors, the hardware. If you're doing a kitchen, like you've got to think about the stone or where goes things, or appliances that go within it. Like there's so many elements I think that you've got to think about that might cost money or might be an issue. That sometimes bespoke work can be quite off-putting sometimes because you've got to do so much.
I mean, do you find it's more difficult to quote for something that's bespoke because of the changing nature of it?
It's been really hard to quote things right because it is a struggle a lot of the time. And you kind of get to the process where I kind of draw it out and then I kind of segment it, work out kind of some of the material and then the hardware, and you get there eventually, but it's tricky. I find it really,
Not the
really
time
tricky.
aspect as well, because you could start something and then be like,
Yes,
shit.
and no. What happens sometimes is like you end up like you wanted to get it done in a certain amount of time, and you don't necessarily want to go back to client, but like, look, it's just taking longer than I thought. Sometimes you do that, but you don't really want to do it, so you end up working later. So it can to finish on time within your budget, basically. So that can be another thing about doing bespoke work that can be quite tricky. And I found that especially with kitchens. I've done some handmade kitchens, and I build them with a track saw. You know, and there's some people out there who've got the nice machinery, but I'm just doing it all on a, you know, a track saw basically.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time, and you've got to account that when it goes into bespoke work.
Yeah.
So how do you
yeah.
build that in then? So like when you are quoting stuff like that, I mean, we make products, so it's simple. Alex, don't you?
Yeah.
There's my costs. You build all your costs in. You make your margin. Put it.
Yeah, so I use I use a program called SketchUp. That's how I kind of get
The look of it.
the size of it, and I can get the parameters, and then you can I break it down visually, and then I'll work out how much the sheet goods are, and then I can work out how much. Well, that's a side. That's going to be another side, and then I can work out the material cost of the components for the lower cabinets. Upper cabinets, but I think a lot of the time you've got to put a little bit of a contingency, because there's stuff on there that you don't really know that's going to happen, and you've got to think about other trades as well. Sometimes, like if they're doing like a Korean worktop or something, something might get damaged or while they're doing that, and then have you account for that when you do the quote? So there's a few things that you've got to get into it, but. It's a tricky one to quote for. I've always struggled with it, and I'm just getting to the point now where I'm quoting much more accurately, because I know I'm breaking everything down properly, but that takes so much longer, and then they're just going, oh, well, that's really expensive, and you're like, okay, well, all right, fine.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of it, really.
I guess it comes with experience. The more you do things, the better you get a quote in. Like my trade, you pretty much know, unless something's you've not seen is like a pipe under the floor is not the right pipe, and you've got to adapt onto it. It's going to take you longer, or you're going to need to buy some fittings. But I guess with bespoke, that never really changes, because it might be something you've never done before. Even when you're 20 years into your career and you've got the experience, if it's something new, how do you know? You just got to guesstimate. That's probably going to take me that long. You just have to allow a contingency for.
And a lot of the time, I'll just break each part down, work out the materials, hardware, any other additions like with other trades. But that's the problem with it. And when you're doing it all on your own, if you do a bespoke kitchen, like there's companies out there that have everyone that deal with all sorts of parts of it. They'll deal with the design, materials, and everything. So they've got a system. When you kind of do it on your own, that's quite tricky, because you're covering everything and you've got to work out every single part of it. But I think it takes a bit of time. I think that last year I was just going, love it, and then I was underquoting, and then just like realised like it's cheaper than like a Wren kitchen. Like, oh my god. And then,
but I guess if you did quote something and you were horrendously out and it cost you money, it's a valuable lesson to learn early on.
Yes,
because then you hopefully
one
won't
of the
do it
first
again.
kitchens I did, I way underquoted, and I didn't really take this into account. And what happened is I was like, I was literally so close to burning myself out, because I had to get it done at this stage to actually make any money on it. So I'm just literally super grafting, working so late until like midnight, knowing I can get all the components ready, I can get it installed in this amount of time. So that's the main thing that I definitely learned, was like, my God, you've got to break it down properly and quote right, because it catches you out. And then you're just on burnout, and the client don't know, and you're there just like, I said 1 a.m. to get this ready.
It must be so demotivating turning up to work and knowing that you're not earning any profit from the job.
I've been doing it for 10 years.
I mean, you mentioned the Wren kitchen thing. Did you ever? Do you ever go on, and these sort of standard places that you can go and buy kitchens from? Do you ever actually look to see how much they do charge to get a rough idea?
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily do that on my first one. I got really excited and just build it how I normally do my, like wardrobe jobs and alcove jobs and stuff like that. And I did my first kitchen, and I quoted it like that. And that's how I broke it down. I broke all the parts down. I was like, that's the materials. Okay, this is how much the feet are going to cost. Like the hardware will be X amount. I've added it all up. And I'm like, I could install it in 3 days. How I normally install like a I've been a kitchen installer in the past, so I knew how long it takes to install a kitchen. When it's bespoke, takes so much longer. And this is what I learned, and I was like, so I was just on my first kitchen. I was just like super burnout basically.
Because I actually thought that's
because I was way underquoted. Yeah. Like, it was scary.
So I actually thought that's actually a good idea for anybody that is starting out to actually.
But the thing is,
check pricing against some.
The thing is, like, I got so excited by it. So I was like, "Oh, can you make me a kitchen, like handmade one?" I'm like, "Yes, this is going to be great. Yeah, I'm in. Yeah." And then I kind of broke it down, and part of me, I wanted to win it, but I quickly learned that oh my god, like I've really underquoted on this one. So that's what I found. Like the scariest part was like I was so excited by it and could not wait to start. And I was like, "Oh, this will be great content as well." And then I started on this kitchen. And I like realised like, oh my god, this is going to be so hard. So yeah, worked. My first kitchen I worked so hard on it. But then the next one got a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Quoted right on that. And then the next one got a little bit easier. But they're still so bespoke. And even though you might win it, you then break it down into more of the components. You got the cutting list, and you realise, okay, and then that's where you can kind of go, oh, okay, I should have done this a little bit better, and you remember that for next time.
Yeah.
So it builds up slowly. Like last year, I was just saying yes to everything. Yeah. And then now, just into this year, I've actually been doing it properly. I've lost a few people. But the reality of I've just been quoting properly, so they've
lost them because of the price.
Exactly. But it's like I'm just doing it the right way now.
Yeah.
So I've lost a few people, but the ones that have stayed are the ones that kind of really understand that the bespoke work is worth that a little bit more.
That's why it's called bespoke.
Yeah, exactly. But some people don't get it, and there's nothing wrong with that, really. But yeah, the bespoke work is just when you're doing it all from scratch, it just takes that little bit longer. There's a few things that can go wrong, but there's advantages with bespoke work, and I think there's people out there that can understand why it's so good. Because my first kitchen, she went with me mainly, well, because I was cheap. I didn't know I was so cheap.
She's like, because it was cheap.
But you can build everything so it fits in there perfectly. Yeah. Like she had really high curved ceilings, and everything I built fitted in there perfectly. So everything's in proportion to the room. Yeah. Whereas like if you buy like with whoever is quoting,
go to the ceiling,
everything's built in a generic shape.
Yeah.
So it's just like if you have really high ceilings, you're going to have like a really high top filler, which is going to look weird. So when you go bespoke, people that know it can understand like there's that extra bit of thought and detail that's gone into why that unit is that big, why the doors are that big, and they've changed different things around.
If you're spending a lot on something, you want it to look to look right.
Yeah, so, but yeah, early on, I was just like, yeah, cool, amazing, this is going to be so good. Yeah. But I quickly learned that I definitely underquoted, and then I'm just on burnout to actually make any money. So I'm just trying to just work so hard to get it completed on time. So you learn really, really quickly because you don't want to get to that state again. You don't want to feel like that, oh my God, I'm not happy. And then you don't want to be unhappy with the client either. And you don't want to be going back to them just going, oh, well, it's going to cost X amount of money. It's going to be more money. And it's been hard, especially because also you have to keep an eye on what's happening with all the, mainly it's like sheet material for me.
Yeah,
and you have to keep an eye on it because it's I think over the last 2 years, it's probably gone up 400%. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's gone up incredibly. Like it used to be like for a sheet of like MDF, like high quality, like furniture grade, was probably selling for like £25 a sheet. Yeah. It's now hitting like 80, 90. And I'm using different types of MDF, which is the material mainly. There's different brands that you can use, but they're in the £80 to £90 mark, really, I think. So it's gone up considerably, and you have to address that every time. And then the clients expect it's going to be this much, so they're constantly getting these variations. So, but that's been the same for probably most people in the trades. Like a lot of materials are going up.
I mean, one thing I wanted to do is actually go back before you start saying yes to everybody.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned out there about working for Sunseeker.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So I wanted to go back and get sort of the backstory.
Yeah, there's a few stories at Sunseeker, but yeah, I could call it the yacht builders, and there's a few stories there
because that's different to anybody that's been on. So
yeah. So so I've worked in the yacht building industry for about 4.5 years. and that was good experience.
Is that what got you into what you're doing now, really?
No. I started early on as a bench joiner, and then actually did my qualifications in bench joinery, and then tried going site carpentry. Did a little bit of that, got qualified, but I did that for 6 months, and then the recession happened, and then it was like the yachts. That's where they are. That's where the money is, because
Is that because where you're based as well?
Yeah, where I'm based.
Yeah.
And it was basically
Don't build many yachts in Birmingham. That's what I'm thinking.
Probably not. No.
Lucky
Well,
we
yeah.
see water around here, mate. That's our day out at the water park.
Yeah, and I think at the time we called them the BRICS, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China. They were the ones that had the money that were buying internationally. So the housing market in the UK was on a bit of a downer.
Yeah.
The company was looking for people to go there, and then I went in there all qualified, ready to go. I'm like, yeah, I got this, and they're like, cool. You look like. I was like, you don't want to see my CV, you don't want to see all the qualifications I've got. Like, they just saw my attitude and they're like, yeah, we're great, we got you. I was like, okay, brilliant.
In your cup.
I've just spent 5 years at college, and you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, okay. But yeah, worked at the yacht building industry, and I worked on the bigger yachts of 40 metres. And that was quite good. And I was lucky because I worked mainly on the larger ones, doing all the little bespoke bits. So it would be like, the really rich people, they would want some fancy stuff like a fancy table or something like a cool unit, like a unit that does this, and
an M&M bowl.
And I worked in a room basically in one of the shipbuilders, like I say, room like a workshop basically, and I do a lot of the assembly of the components and stuff like that. And they'd have designers that would go, right, we want this. Here you go. Here are the plans, and then I'd build it. And I worked with a lot of older guys. They used to call it God's waiting room.
The coffin dodgers.
Yeah, and it was just the old experienced guys that were there. But I think for me, I fitted in with them well. They were really grumpy, basically, and I fitted in with them well. I think there was another young guy that was working there, and there's about 8 or 9 older guys close to retirement. But they're all kind of like similar backgrounds, but very experienced, really skilled joiners.
There's a wealth of knowledge there, isn't there?
Yeah. And I was really, really lucky to work with them. Really enjoyed working with those guys. Learned a lot, and a few of them giving me their old tools and stuff, which I got. Like one's like it's a scribing tool, but it's so old, but it's illegal because the point on it is so but he's given it to me and I like it. It's one of those things. So lucky in that regard, and worked with them there. Learned quite a lot there, and then really, really enjoyed it. But at the time, I was just like, need to spread my wings and do a bit of travelling, stuff like that.
Jumped in his yacht.
Jumped in the yacht and gone.
Did they all took the yacht, or did you say, this one's nice, this will do? I'm off.
Yeah. But yeah, especially with the yachts, I did some really cool jobs.
Yeah.
Really, really liked him. But would I go back into yacht building? I don't know. It's a nice trade to be in, but I think I quite like what I'm doing now, the bespoke work. It's similar, and then left, and then did a bit of travelling, soul searching and stuff, and then
Go anywhere nice?
I did the Southeast Asia type scenario. Did Southeast,
Vietnam?
Yeah, Vietnam. You know, on the
my missus did it. That's
right. Went solo because I said to the company, I was like, can I have a sabbatical, bit of time off, I want to find myself, do all this stuff. Because I was fully qualified.
Mushroom Mountain in Thailand, there I come.
And I think they gave me like 6 weeks unpaid holiday and stuff, and I said thank you, but I'm going to give it a go and see you later. So it was good. Really enjoyed working with the company. It was great. Ended up going solo travelling through Thailand. Did all that. Went up north. Got on the motorbikes in Vietnam. Bought an old Russian Minsk. And I went solo, but I met up with like a few people there, and we just all jumped on a bike that we bought in Hanoi, and then spent a month riding down the entire length of the country. But it was good. It's something I wanted to do. Spent about 5 months doing all the Southeast Asia stuff, so it was good. And then ended up in Australia, and then working out in Australia,
doing similar stuff.
And that was the bonus about, especially with my qualifications. I'd spent you know, I had the MVQ level 3 in bench joinery, carpentry and stuff like that. So CV wise, it really gave me an opportunity to go somewhere like that. And, you know.
How come you didn't stay in Australia? Because they're crying out for...
They are crying out. Who knows? We'll see. I think I came back here.
So Australia next year.
Yeah, they're always crying out for tradesmen out there. And
Why?
Because I haven't got eaten by a spider.
Yeah, because they're all dead.
This magic toad killed me.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
You know.
But yeah, tradesmen are on really good money out there. Yeah, and I was a kitchen contractor in Sydney for a bit, and you earn really good money. Yeah, I was earning really good money there. Like that.
Surprised you didn't stay.
Yeah, it's tempted. I was planning to stay, but I think with COVID, and I had a breakdown about I had a 6-year relationship with a girl out there, so
okay.
it was one of those. But yeah, so ended up with COVID out here, and I was like, right, I'll stick to it. But who knows? We'll see. I did like Australia. It was really good. I've also got a brother in the Middle East. He wants me out there as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Right now, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing and how it's all going. So
Yeah.
I'm just happy, basically. And I think if I was working in Australia, I might be on more money, but I wouldn't be enjoying my job so much. So
Yeah. And do you think because you enjoy your job, is that what led you to post your content because you love what you do?
So it was targeted for originally how I posted content, because when I first started out, there was nothing on my social media and I didn't have a website, and a client was basically, she wanted this alcove unit, and I was honest with her. I emailed her, I was like, I can't do this alcove unit, but here's a picture of what I've done for another company, but there's nothing on my, my CV, on my Instagram. So she didn't message me back, and I was like, right. So I was on My Builder, just got a job for that, and then it was real cheap. I was like, right, I'm just going to smash this alcove unit out, do it really well, but I'm going to make sure, I know that, because I knew she was following me on Instagram, I was like, I'm going to film it in a way to make sure she knows that I can do it.
Yeah.
So I just grabbed my tripod and phone, and then I'd go there, pull up, and then I'd film that, and then I'd get in, sheet the sofa, protect the area, get tools out, start fitting everything, did the floating shelves in it and stuff like that. It wasn't an expensive job, but I was able to then post that on my stories, and she was watching my stories.
Yeah.
And then she emailed me the next day saying, I want to go ahead with the alcove unit. So then I was like,
Nice, yeah.
this can be a really good way of showcasing what you can do ability wise. And it grew from that. And then I had no followers or anything. And then everyone was really liking my stories. And then I had this, right, I've got to keep it up. So I just kept doing it. But the problem was I was doing all this bespoke work, working my ass off. And just having a tripod around and filming everything. So for me, I was working overload. I would get up like 6 a.m. in the morning, do the post for the day, spend 50 minutes doing it for 2 to 3 minutes of content, then go start work and crack on, and then film little bits in it as well. And it was all price work as well. So it was one of those things I really had to keep it up. So it's definitely been hard work. But one of those ones which I found was very effective is I learnt that you can really show using stuff like on social media, especially with stories, that you can show how you can do the job, and that's how I did it with stories. So yeah, I found that it was an effective way, basically.
So, as you know, myself and Pete, we always want to try and give back to the people that watch and listen to the show. So we've done you an absolute solid. We've got loads of discounts from top name brands all across the internet. So if you want to save some money on tools, software, tool bags, accessories, then go and check out our discount page, which is just located here. Hopefully there's a saving on there for you, and that's a little bit of a thank you from myself and Pete for supporting the channel. Should we go over to Mr. Will?
Yeah. Still there?
You know what I mean? Is it?
He's still here. He's still here. So, yeah, basically, Will, just, obviously you're running a business now, but take us back for, obviously you told me a little bit about how you got into it, and just take us back to sort of,
Compared to that? All right. So I didn't build any yachts or do anything exciting.
Yeah.
I applied for the wrong job.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it started. So after uni, I started a company at uni with my best friend. It's a clothing company.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. It failed.
In fact,
Yeah.
he'd like that hat. I'll show him.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you guys give everything a free. So we thought we'd give you a free hat.
Oh, nice.
You like this one?
But yeah, so started a clothing company, learnt loads, spent loads, made very, very little. We made lots of good clothes, but that's about it. Still got some of them actually. And then, as you do, you find your way a little bit. Ended up in aerospace, absolutely loved it. Awesome industry, got to travel loads. Just the level of people in it was awesome. The projects we're working on is insane. But that company went through a merger. So I was like, right. It was me and a geezer from the other side. He'd been doing like 22, 23 years, something like that. I've been doing it a year.
Yeah.
So big corporate company, they're not going to pay him X amount of money to leave. It's going to be me because they can get rid of me for free. Right?
Yeah.
So I start putting my CV around and having a look.
Imagine if they did get rid of him.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, yeah, if actually I never did check. But yeah, so I started applying and I thought I'd applied for another aerospace because at the time I was living in Cheltenham. And so I applied for a job in Bristol because there's a lot of aerospace companies in and around that Bristol area. And I thought I'd applied for a job there. And then when I turned up to the interview, with all the details in the email and stuff, it was for the regional office at Edmonton's. I was like, who are Edmonton's? Yeah. So I've gone back onto the email, which I'd printed off, because smartphones weren't what they are now then.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it definitely says Edmonton's on here. But it also says 22 grand a year on a company car.
Yeah.
Well, I really need a job. So I had a Sony Ericsson WAP phone. You remember the old Walkman phones back in the day?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to Google who Edmonton's are and what they do. I haven't got a clue. And after it eventually loads up, which, takes like an hour, doesn't it? It's like they sell twin and earth sockets. Who buys this stuff? I need a job anyway, so I go in there. So I walk in there, and they're like, the bless her, this girl on the reception, she turns around and says, "Oh, have you done the psychometric test? I can't see anything on the system for you." And there's a queue of geezers there, literally, they've all done it, and they're all like, "Oh God, I'm absolutely screwed this up before I started." I said, "No, I didn't read the email." And she's like, "Right, there was a link at the bottom," and so I pull the email out my back pocket. Yeah, she's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, and to be fair, she let me use a computer and do the psychometric test.
Yeah,
so
I'll cheat.
Yeah, so I must have got it semi-right because they let me do the interview. And anyway, I interviewed really well, and they offered me the Cardiff or Swindon. And it was back then, they call it something different now, but it was like the graduate management program. Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, deal. I chose Cardiff because
Obviously.
yeah. Between Cardiff and Swindon, I was like, Cardiff seems a logical one there. It was a bigger branch as well. So went down there, met the manager, got on really well with him, and did it. So they send you off to these different academies, sales academy. You have to do your city and guilds way there as well. So you learn the basics of wiring circuits and housing and things like that. So you can actually have a conversation with an electrician. Yeah. And then you work through all your different departments and bits and bobs. And as I was doing all that, there was a management change, and I hated this geezer, and he didn't think much of me. And with that, I was like, this isn't going to last. I love the industry. I just don't like working here. They don't like me working here. Again, another one of those moments where you read between the lines and you think, actually, after all this, maybe it is me. I'd already registered the company, and I thought, right, lots of other manufacturers in the industry. I didn't think a lot of them. I thought the way they were represented, the product quality, the way they went to market, the way they bully you into certain stock profiles, and all this sort of stuff. I thought, I can do it better. Naively, I might add, thought I can do it better. So obviously then I had this ding dong with a manager, and it was one of those moments where like, right, off you go then, and you can have the car for a couple of weeks. Like, cheers. I was broke, so I went to Starbucks because it had free Wi-Fi. So I cancelled the Wi-Fi at the house.
So you're going to say I was broke, so I went for a coffee.
That's it. Yeah. But there's a reason for that. One, like I say, I couldn't afford the 45 quid a month or whatever it was for the Wi-Fi, but for £1 a day, you'd get a filter coffee that they'd fill up for free all day. So for £1 a day, I had an office. Still didn't have a clue, but I had an office. Yeah. So, and that's what it was. I knew what I wanted to do. I started in lighting, ironically, because it's what I did a lot of at Ed's, and it's my background. What I was doing a lot of at aerospace. Got in and out of that because the lighting I was doing, I was just importing it. It wasn't a design and build or situation. It was importing it, rebranding it, and it was generic. Your 2D fittings, your floodlights, downlights, nothing particular good. So as soon as the price fluctuated, which it did massively back then, we're talking like 10 years ago.
It dropped massively, didn't it?
So your product would be devaluing whilst on
the shelf. Yeah.
And it's just like
that's why we never got into it.
It was carnage. So like I'd be buying it at a dollar rate, and then by the time it was halfway here, all my competitors had dropped their price 20%. I think, well, there's my margin.
Yeah.
So it was a short-term solution to a long-term problem, I guess. And then I really wanted to get into wiring accessories. I had some great customers at the time when I was at Ed's. I thought that it's a solid market. It's a commodity. It's never going to go anywhere. And when I was out in Hong Kong, I met a guy who worked for a factory. He's from Knutsford, actually. Worked for a factory who was making switching sockets for a company, for Electricians, just away from me there.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I used to sell a lot of that, and South Wales was really heavily Crabtree specified. I thought, I can crack that. So I took their off-the-shelf product there, and then started taking that to market and started doing well. Margin retention was good. I mean, I could sell a socket at the time to a wholesaler for 80p. I mean, again, we are talking 10 years ago, and the socket wasn't the best, but it hit a price point. It was a market for it. And then we did decorative, and then we did flat plate. Then I got carried away, did screwless, metal clad, and then it got a little bit out of hand. But it was going well. It was going well. We started growing, so we moved premises, and everything was kind of going well. And then I started doing circuit protection. So it was all, at this point, it's all off the shelf stuff, right? So you go out, you visit a factory, you vet it, you quality control it, you go, okay, and then you put your name on it and you bring it in.
Yep.
Short. Again, there's a ceiling with that type of approach, right? So we did that for the first 5 years-ish, because you had to raise the capital to actually be able to go and invest in your own tooling, invest in your own R&D and your certification and all that, and it cost time and money, right? So once we did that, we were like, right, what's next? And what we were doing really well at the time was accessories. What I knew best was accessories. So what I did is I went out and I invested into a factory, into tooling, and I said, I want to make a love child between these 4 different manufacturers. These are the 4 main accessories in the market. They've all got different USPs, different things that people like, electricians like to use.
Yeah.
I want to put it all in one range of accessories. And I thought that'd be a lot easier than it was. And then it's great. So you get your tooling, you've done it, like, great, cool, I can really launch. And then your business partner turns around and says to you, yeah, but it's got no certification. I didn't factor that in. All right, so then you have to go certify everything.
That takes time.
And the money. The amount of money it costs to take a product to market is absolutely astonishing. I mean,
do you know what? I actually quite like having you on, because when everybody throws shit and shade at my brand online, to hear somebody else say, like, certifications, so we've been working on rechargeable latex products 5 years.
I believe it.
Still not even past testing.
Mate,
and when somebody then says to me,
why's your ATEX is a different level as well, though.
Why is your product £250? And it's like, because it has literally taken me 5 years, and each time that you fail the testing,
you have to go through the whole process again.
You have to go through the whole
retest
process again.
That's it.
And that could be like £25,000.
Yeah.
Because literally you have to resubmit everything, and that person has to go, yeah. That person goes, yeah.
You've nailed it. I mean, so recently, a couple of years ago, we started a process of actually improving those wiring accessories that we started Verso with back in 2016. There's not many switch and socket manufacturers that are actually reinvesting money into. They're all trying to value engineer their product to get it cheaper. We're not. We invested back in to improve it. Our switch spur, which probably sells for a couple of quid to the spark, 13 grand to recertify that, because it had inline terminals on it. It's quite unique. As a feature and benefit on a product, it's fantastic. 13 grand to certify a spur. And it's just like, do you know how many I've got to sell?
Just to make that money back, yeah.
And again, our market is like perfect competition, right? There's so many people doing very similar products. Okay, you've got your USPs, you've got your brands, but when it comes down to it, it's so heavily predicated on price. And then, like a nut job, in 2019, I restructured the company, which is now so it's now a group. So Verso is its own independent entity, Ascot Heating's its own independent, and then we've got the My Install side of it. They've all got their own different teams and different products and different management and everything else. And I spent 2.5 years developing a consumer unit range, circuit protection range, which has taken us from here to absolutely flying.
Yeah.
And 2019, I was like, right, we're going to do it. And obviously, COVID hit. Fantastic. So 2020.
Had you spent all the money developing it and
yeah, but it's where it gets worse, right? Yeah. So I'd done it all, and then we had our final sample come over. It was in the summertime in 2020. So it's between that time when out the first lockdown before the second lockdown, right? So they're like, right, you can go out and see people. So I'm sample under my arm. I went to see everyone. Like, this is what we can do to try and get some pre-commitment. And then I was speaking to a lot of electricians about it, and we'd spoken to so many just develop the product. And then we got to one of the guys said, the problem is there's just not enough space for an RCBO. And we'd already made it taller and bigger than a lot of people, I think. And sat in the back of my brain. I couldn't shift it. So I says to Paul, my business partner, I said, Paul, I'm gonna make a taller mush. I thought if he could have travelled from China at the time, I think it'd have killed me. Yeah. Genuinely think it'd have killed me. And I just wouldn't have it. I was like, we're making it taller. And there's a couple other features I want to add as well. And he's like, well, we can't. We've got to pretty much start again. We've got to recertify it because the heat rise will be different. I was like, well, let's crack the fuck on then. Let's get it done. Which pushed the launch date back, but we did it, and the best thing we ever did. And then we launched it with a bounce back loan in 2021. Yeah. And since then it's just gone absolutely.
I mean, just to quantify it, like you don't have to put it into monetary, but just like what difference has that made to your business? Like
it's doubled it.
Doubled the business.
Yeah, it's doubled it in 18 months. 19 months.
Because for people listening, obviously my side of the fence is the business side, obviously a brand. Obviously Pete's is the trade side, which is wide.
But also, because I did my range of kit bags, I've got a little bit of an insight into that. Because when you said you took the 4 that you thought were the market leaders, and you made one that's got all of their...
Yeah.
If you take the same with the board as well, and add one thing, it's going to cost that much. Then you add another thing, it costs even more. So if you add all the 4 things to that, does it not price you out of the market because you're going to be more expensive? Well, it's better. It's more expensive.
It prices you out of certain markets.
For a lot of guys, the bottom line is the price.
Yeah, I mean, it prices you out of certain markets. Yeah. But it's like, we were talking about like...
The difference for you when you make your bag is because you are in the trade, people will buy it because they're like...
No, but at the design stage, I say to Tony, I want the bag to do this, I want it to do this, I want it to have this, I want it to have this. And he's like, yeah, you can have all that, but the bag's going to cost 300 quid. Well, no one's going to buy that. So you have to take off, do I really need that? And you strip it back.
But
you've still got a good product.
But even if, I think the difference is, even if you did load it, people would still buy it. And the reason being is because they know that everything that they're paying that money for is useful. Whereas obviously when you're just a brand, obviously... For me, trying to...
Yeah, I know it's different, but the point I'm making is the more you add to something, you can make it infinitely better. It's just going to cost more money.
Makes it more complicated.
Even with a kitchen, if they say I want, walnut this and oak that, and it's the price just goes up.
Sure, but like you alluded to earlier, right? So there's a lot of people doing similar product, okay, and the things are priced at a point for a reason. Yeah. Okay, so with the stage that we're at as a company, we invest heavily into making sure it's made from the best materials, has the best certification. I mean, our stuff's individually tested. I think there's only one other circuit protection manufacturer that does that, and they charge 3 times as much for an RCBO, right? Everyone else batch tests. So you're on 100,000 RCBOs, they're 0.5% to pass a batch test from Intertech. Yeah. We can't. We use TUV. We have to individually test. It costs a fortune in comparison. But, we are a smaller entity, so we have smaller overheads. So that is also factored into the cost. We don't have a management team ripping all the profit out of business. Everything goes back in. So everything we're doing at the moment is to build for the next 10 years. It's not to rip it out, which then enables you to be more competitive. But that's the compromise you make, right? So if you want to build something like a legacy and you want to really invest in your brand and your product and you want to put something better to market, that's the choice you make. Otherwise, you go the other road, which is you keep just finding the cheapest stuff you can, putting your name on it, bring it to market as soon as something cheaper. But the problem is with that is eventually someone will always be cheaper and they'll come back. Yeah. And if something goes wrong, because you can't control your quality control, you don't have any infrastructure in and around your raw materials, then it could put you out of business as well. Yeah, massively. Yeah.
Especially in this day and age with social media, if something does go wrong, everyone wants to moan about.
Everyone wants to moan about everything on social media anyway.
Yeah.
Don't get started on that.
Yeah.
Mate.
But so what's your social? You just there to sell your stuff, or you showing? You got the passion that you've obviously got speaking about it. Are you showing that off on your page?
Yeah, I mean, I got banned from the Verso page for being a bit too passionate, so I set my own up. But it was.
Is that for arguing with trolls and?
He's doing an Alex Inslee.
Because he's well known for that.
Yeah.
That's how I got talking to.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. But a bit of that. Yeah. But it's I mean, I'm quite lucky, right? My entire team are as passionate as I am, apart from a couple maybe. Yeah. But like, yeah.
Mom, I can't talk right now. Mom, get off the phone.
But yeah, so I mean, we do an awful lot on social. What we like to do is, that's why where my install came from. It's not really about us. A lot of what we post is other people's work,
right?
Because it's about them. and that's why we built the My Install Rewards and Academy. So they get reward. Like they spend anything on Verso. You buy £100 worth of Verso gear from your wholesaler, we'll give you £100 worth of points, so you can cash it in against stuff like this, hats, bits and bobs. But off the back of that, we've also built the Academy. So there's CPD accredited training courses, things like that. That's all delivered for free. So they get access to that, just again, to try and improve the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
But again, on the back of that as well, is it's trying to build out that wider community. And it's not, Alex will tell you, we sell a product, we are a brand, but we live by what we say, but we sell a product at the end of the day. That product's absolutely useless unless someone puts it on someone's wall.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything. So we can make it the best we want to make it, but if no one's going to use it, then it's just going to sit on our shelves. And it's much investment and time and passion you put into something, it's useless. So we wanted to center this company and this brand around the installers, and that's what we've been building towards. So on our socials, it's very much led and driven by the content we're given. So we can predicate
there's
that.
definitely in plumbing, there's definitely more brands that do that sort of like install, like Valent with they give you stuff if you install a certain amount of boilers or you support their brand. There's certainly more of that, I think, in the plumbing side.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Than the electrical side.
The electrical side's really small. Like there's an awful lot of brands that will say like they're built for the electrician or designed by an electrician for an electrician or whatever, but they don't. It's completely about that bottom line, and they put everything out, and you might get a free t-shirt here and there, but that's about it. And the companies in the electrical side, they're massive. They're massive, and it's just a different way of doing the same thing. That's the way I look at it. But we make the product better. There's a lot of companies out there that have been there longer than us, that are a lot bigger than us, that have the capability to make, if not as good, maybe even better if they could, product than us, and choose not to.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's the issue I find with a lot of companies, whether it's electrical, carpentry, whatever it is. These brands, they get to a certain point, and it's almost like they can just expect the checks to keep rolling.
Yeah, but what they then start doing, and I don't know if it's the same in your industry, but they start in the electrical industry, start value engineering stuff.
To try and rip it out.
Yeah, they start ripping product. The prices are going up, the quality of the product's being ripped out, and the only person getting screwed is...
But that's where they disappear in the end.
And you can see that from a lot of leading brands 10 years ago that are not even considered anymore.
Yeah.
And then the cycle begins again, right? So that's something we're trying very heavily to make sure that everything we do, we put our name on. One is ours, designed by us, and we can account for. But two is better than what's out there. Because otherwise, if we can't make it better than someone else, what's the point?
I think it's really good when you have a company that's producing something that is for sale, and at the end of the day, you want to sell stuff. But if you care about the product, and you care about what people think, and you, in the day of social media, you want people to sort of be on your team and push your product for you. So if you treat them with good customer service or reward schemes or training schemes like you do, or even sharing their work, you share a picture of an apprentice's work and say, great job, you've probably got a customer for life then, because
that's why we do a lot of work with
that
colleges
means
as well.
something to the tradesperson, rather than a big faceless company that just want to sell you stuff and they don't care what kind of... You see these massive companies reshare work that is, the standard of it is so poor, but just because their product's in it, let's share this. Well, it backfires them because the standard's so low, and the guys that are doing the work can see that, and it's all to them. It is about selling stuff and their products on there, so let's share
There's
it.
a balance with that, right? So, and you hit the nail on the head there as well, and it's also then about building that community, but that social media community isn't very supportive at times. So if an apprentice who has done his first board and is proud of his board and posts and it's a Verso installation, he's posted it on there, I have no problem with telling my team, repost that kid's 18, 19, 16, whatever it might be, that's his first board, he's been given our board to fit it, like you say, he'll feel an association to that. And then you'll have every Tom, Dick and Harry in a comment, I can see a bit of copper there, you should have done it. Like, read it. It's the kid's first board. Rather than go, well done, mate, next time, why don't you have a look at this, or just, maybe use this tool or whatever. They're all over it. You think, come on. They're going to drive kids out of the industry.
That's the downside, and it's just people, you can say keyboard warriors, trolls, whatever, it's people trying to make themselves feel better by putting someone else down, and that is the bad side of social media.
Yeah, there is a dark.
But it's how you handle that, because you can either get into an argument or you can just
call them on the phone.
do what Alex does and turn up at their house at midnight and knock on the door.
Yeah, I've not gone to them.
Never say never will. Never say never.
Well, no, like I say, you know, we were talking earlier that there's been an incident recently on ours, you know, and a geezer's come after, you know, made some comments about one of my staff who's a 21-year-old lad, just genuinely just trying to do his job. Yeah. He's a really good kid, you know, and then, you know, he's made certain comments that, bang, you know, they're out of order. They've led to other comments from other people, and, you know, it's not right. Yeah. And then you try and hold that conversation with that person, and then the first thing they do is threaten to post that all over social media. Yeah. And you know that gets manipulated and twisted. You think, well, hang on, where's the boundary here? Because it, you know, and you're right, we have to also take some accountability. Like, I can't go around, you know, and telling people necessarily exactly how I feel,
Alex,
because I'm also responsible for an awful lot of people that work for me. I'm responsible for this brand and everything else, and that will have an impact.
And it can snowball, and it can almost become like a witch hunt. If you if you upset the wrong guy and he's got nothing better to do than troll you for the rest of the year, he will make it he'll wake up in the morning, he'll think, what can I do today to damage your company?
But
you don't want that.
You're right, and you get someone that wakes up with a kick out of doing that, whilst another person is trying to keep food on other people's tables. Yeah. Right? And I mean, other industries have probably been suffering this a lot longer than, I don't know about, again, the plumbing side or the carpentry side, but the electrical industries tend to be about 5 to 10 years behind everything else. I mean, 6 years ago, I was still receiving orders on fax machines. I shit you. Right.
So, ladies and gents, tradesmen and women, I am trying to help you organise yourself. So we have teamed up with Tradify, which is a software brand that if you are struggling to get organised, to look after your customers and to get everything ready for the jobs that you are going to need, then Tradify is an all-in-one solution. So we've teamed up with those guys. If you click this little link just up here, you get 50% off your first 3-month subscription, and you also can have a 14-day free trial. So what was the idea you mentioned? Because obviously he does a lot of work with colleges. What was the idea for you as a brand then for going after colleges? Because I know other brands like Apple always target with back to school for discounts for products and stuff like that.
I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he was a college lecturer, and he was like, "Well, today's apprentices are tomorrow's electricians." Yeah. Like, well, I'm 35. My management team's 31 on average. We're going to be here for the next 20, 30 years. So are they.
Yeah.
And I've never had much luck going into wholesalers or speaking to electricians that are 10, 15 years older than me.
Well, they just continue to use the same things 100%. That they've always...
And, you know, I mean, and I have this argument all the time, right? So, I've used this brand for 20 years. I said, yeah, but things change.
Has it changed?
Things change and evolve. That hasn't. I was like, yeah, but it's never done me wrong. I said, well, 20 years ago, what phone did you have in your pocket? Well, you didn't. Right? I actually took it to lie. I had a Nokia, whatever it was, that had Snake on it. Remember that one? The little area.
You just mentioned this because whenever I go into a wholesaler and they say you're too expensive, I say, do me a favour. So what phone you got in your pocket?
Yeah.
iPhone.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's what I said to them, like the phone you had 20 years ago and the phone you got now, stuff's changed. The way we do things has changed. The way we work has changed. The way we engineer product is different. But yeah, that order general, and I get it. Like sometimes I walk into a wholesaler, especially an independent, might be a very successful wholesaler. Probably started from his front garden, now doing X amount of millions, and I'm half his age, and I walk in there, I'm like,
that's another thing that people get put off by.
Some of them don't like it, but you know,
it's true of everything in life though. Like I started off with Crescent grips, so they just feel good in my hand, but I know there's better quality grips out there, especially now they change where they make them. But let's say you fit in Baxi boilers and then the first Worcester Bosch you fit, you're going to hate it because it's different.
Yeah.
But then 5-6 boilers down the line, you love it because you're used to it.
You fit in Worcester Bosch, are you?
I used to fit Worcester, yeah. Yeah, I was a Worcester WAI.
Until boxed.
No, just I didn't like with the reward things, you get holidays and stuff. They have levels of installer. In Worcester, it's called Worcester Accredited Installer. So you can be a silver one. You got to fit 25 boilers a year, but you get nothing. Right. Gold, you got to fit 50, and then you start getting support, and they send you leads and stuff. So for me being a domestic plumber, fitting 20, 30 boilers a year was no benefit for being a Worcester. Whereas if you were doing Valent Master Tech, you were getting an extra 2 years on your warranty. They were looking after you more. So I just changed because I wasn't getting anything off Worcester, and that was it really.
Yeah. So we're about to launch an improved installer program. So a few years ago, I employed a guy who was a national sales manager for ACO Smoke Detection. They've only got 94% of the market share, so I thought he'd be a good guy to take. So that's what we're aiming for. That's next year's target. But and a lot of what they've done and how they built it was on like approved installer programs, like the educational side as well as that reward side, and keeping everything. And they're very clever as well. When they get a specification, which they seem to get all of them now, you have to be an approved installer to be able to get on the to be able to install it, to be able to get on the specification. So it keeps it all together, rounded, but also gives that installer, the wholesaler, and then the specifier that support and that comfort.
You just got to make it easy for whoever's fitting your product. You've got to make it so simple.
And that's to go back to your original part of the question. That's why I'm on social media, because I also think it's quite important. We are a younger company. We do things differently. If you've got any questions or feedback, you can contact me directly. I don't hide.
So what's your, obviously we're near the end of the year, what's your plans for 2023? More of the same, or have you got some top secret plans?
Just keep doing what I'm doing, really. Really happy with the work that's coming in. It's growing. I'm getting more kitchens as well. So, just keep doing what I'm doing. Improve as well. The one thing I always think is like I'm not as good as I see with other guys. I follow a lot of other.
Who's one account that you?
Derek Barrett Design. You've had him on.
He was on last time.
Yeah. And I've listened to him on other podcasts, and he's great. Very, so skilled. Really committed. I've listened even before I set off to do my own thing. I was listening on the podcast thinking I listened to it and I was like, right, he inspired me to do kind of what I'm doing now. So I always look up to guys like him, really experienced, very.
It'll be nice for him to hear that.
And the work he does is incredible. He's very, very talented, but also he's got that motivation, really. I think that's the consistency. I think it's having that consistency, that motivation. He's got that, and he does some really, really good work. So I'd like to get to a point where I can get to that. At the moment, I'm just using whatever I can get my hands on tool-wise.
He's fully loaded though with his workship, isn't he?
He's got some very nice equipment. But then I don't want to grow. Like I think I listen to Derek Barrett. Not listen to. I haven't spoken too much, but he's liked a few things now and again of mine. A few other guys that I chat to are quite experienced on there as well, and I'll listen to them. They've kind of grown a bit, and then some of them are like they get small again, and I'm like, why is that happening? And that kind of resonates with me. Like, how do I adjust that? Because what they say to me, even though it's like a DM on Instagram, I really kind of home into that. A lot of
people try and grow too quick.
Yeah, and
scaling's tough, though, isn't it?
And
really
for me,
tough.
I've like a lot of tradies, like I've got dyslexia as well, really struggled at school and stuff like that. So emails and stuff like that just take me so long, and quoting takes me so long. All that stuff takes me forever. So if I try and grow, getting to a capacity where like Derek Barrett, like he is just, he knows it all, and he's got that real consistency, but also he's probably very good at sending emails, doing all the drawings and stuff, and he can grow it like that. So for me, I've listened to a few others and they've grown a little bit, and I've been like, I see that I won't enjoy it. So part of me,
you'd have to do more of the stuff you
there's another guy, Alistair, Freebird Interiors. I've chatted to him a few times. He's really good, and especially with me starting out, I followed a lot of his YouTube videos as well on how to design components, and that's how I learned how to build a lot of the stuff I build. So I listened to Alistair, and he's kind of grown a bit, and he's doing really well, and he teaches a lot of people as well. So he's really motivational. But whether or not, I think for me, I'd like to just perfect my craft, get better, buy better tools, but also do more educational content as well, because that's what I've been pushing.
No one ever really teaches you about how to scale a business either, do they?
No.
People, it's just always the answer, just sell more. Oh, brilliant. Then you got cash flow, you got infrastructure, so you got the administration side of it and everything else. I mean, it's just...
The thing is, what I found is great advantage, which is like you can be so creative now, whereas I've always worked for a company, and all of a sudden it's like, right, well, I can do whatever I want. To a certain degree,
shopping boards.
Shopping boards. I'm going to badger you on instinct for me. I've been in my garage, like hooking up some like camera rig, so I can get a good shot of me assembling something. It doesn't sound very exciting, but for me, just all of a sudden,
more freedom.
Yeah, and I think with me, I'm much more creative minded when it comes to visualizing a certain scene, so I can film it in a certain way. So I think for me, if I could create more educational content, and then possibly make some sort of an income with that, not like a lot, enough to keep something over my head. I think I'll be happy, and not grow so big and not have, 3 members of staff and just this machine. Because I've worked for companies as well where they've created a machine and they have to feed it. And especially in this industry now, like,
I know that feeling.
Yeah. You create a machine, and I think for me, I won't enjoy trying to feed that machine.
So I already know the answer, but I was going to say, if you thought about taking on an apprentice, like,
I wouldn't take on an apprentice. I don't think.
Because of everything you just said.
You're quite similar.
It's hard to find motivated apprentices as well. I think
but
a lot of
if you like working on your own and you want to do the things that you're doing,
we don't have that luxury.
No,
We've got to find people.
We really do. But it's the hardest part, though, isn't it? I mean, you guys find apprentices. You try and find a motivated, person in accounts or salesperson.
I'm very lucky. Look at the motivation on this.
But it's true.
Right, guys, I need you to get excited about this. What is it? It's another torch. Great. Can't we make some gloves or some knives?
To be fair, though, you guys, I don't get any grief off them.
Nah.
But I bet there wasn't a time when you had that team and when you were trying to adjust your team when you had plenty.
I'll be honest. Probably if I look back 7 or 8 years, like I just used to sometimes think, as a boss, you end up being almost like a therapist. You're like somebody's friend. You have to and every single member of staff, you have to be different with them. And that was one thing that I couldn't get my head around. I was just like, look, I'm going to tell you about doing something. Just bloody listen to it.
But you also have to come to this realization that they'll never. No, that's not fair, because some do. But as a macro, they just won't care as much.
Oh, I can. The one thing I can say about all of these sat here, and 95% in here, everybody does. Everybody.
But there's a difference between
caring as much as what you do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's caring of an ownership, and then there's a passion to do your job, right? And again, I've got a fantastic team now, but it's taken me a decade to build that team. I've had some bad eggs along the way that have almost ruined everything. And with how difficult it is now with hiring people and things like that, it's actually a lot harder to get rid of bad people than it ever was before as well. So when you make an appointment and you think, right, I want to bring this person into our business, you have to consider all that, and it's really difficult. And
because you believe in this product because you've brought it to market. You've got it. How can you can't force someone to believe in something?
No, you can't. But
and at the end of the day, a lot of people, it is a job, but you do want them to be passionate about it and want to.
I wonder if we could have a uni like,
because you get out what you put in. So if they work for you to their full potential, they'll.
Well, that's it, and that's why we quite more. A lot of people that work for us have worked for us for a long time, and they because they share in that. And then at the same point, it also creates an environment where if you don't, it's just not the right company for you, and you end up going to do something else. And most people that have come in and then left have gone on to do great things because they've learnt a lot while they've been with us. Some haven't, right? But they're usually not the ones that left. They're the ones that we usually ask to leave, right? And that's a difficult balance to find. And as you grow and as you scale. That's the factor that no one teaches you, and it changes because people change, people's requirements. We're about to go through recession, right? Obviously, interest rates are through the roof. You have people at your door like, Will, I can't afford my rent, I can't afford my electric, and you're like, right, okay. Well, that's now. What do we do? Because if we can't support our staff and change that, then we don't have a company. I mean, everyone focuses on customers as a company, but unless you have a good team and a staff, your customers can't buy from anyone because there's no one there to buy from, right? So, and it is a tough balance, and scaling isn't fun because they say when you're taking on these new headaches,
let's put that one to bed for you, hasn't it?
It's rewarding if you get it. It is. It's the actual responsibility. It's the sleepless nights. It's God, man, but, it's tough.
I think so as well, and I enjoy working on my own as well. And I think for me, if I had to do more paperwork and someone else was building, I'm just not going to enjoy it. I think I love building stuff with my hands.
You might.
I'm exactly the same. Yeah. I think a lot of guys are. Self-employed tradespeople.
Well, I'm dyslexic, which you can tell if you ever read one of our early catalogues.
So
you can really tell. But we got to a point where I could then afford to, like Jay, my ops manager, like if I've got a really important email to send, I'm making
you read it.
Yeah, you read this for me because I can smash it out really quickly, but I can guarantee it needs translating. and Jay does that, and you can build people up around your weaknesses and their strengths, etc., etc. But it's having that self-awareness as well to be able to do that. Like you were saying, there's certain parts of your job that you don't like, but maybe you do choose to scale. But maybe rather than taking on an apprentice, you take on an admin person who can do this bit, and you can explain and things like that.
I think early on you have the pressure as well, and the pressure creates that. You'll learn a lot within that. I think you create pressure for yourself, and uncomfortable situations like a marathon. You kind of learn a lot along the way. But
for sure. But like a marathon, when you do a business, you work for yourself, or whether you're a tradesperson or you have a company, what no one tells you about, and you hear about it on Instagram these days from these entrepreneurial gurus or whatever garbage comes up this week, but is the level of sacrifice. I've got a beautiful wife and two beautiful girls and a little boy on the way, and the amount of time I have not had with them because. Which I wouldn't have had to worry about had I had a job, had I had stayed at Evanston's or worked at Cities or gone to God, a job at Hager or whatever, right? So that's if any of them would have actually employed me. But like you don't. When you finish work, you go home to your family. Me, I'm traveling up and down the country. I'm in China. I'm here and there. I only got back from Ireland the other week. And that sacrifice that you have to put in just to keep the status quo for everyone else that works for you. Yeah, people don't teach you that. Then there's no real preparing for that until you're in it, and then you're like, oh shit, you're lucky enough to have a supportive person there, or you're on your own, and you can deal with it, or you can't. And that side of it, no one sees. That's that doesn't go on Instagram, right? Yeah, that doesn't doesn't get spoken about.
The missus says she's an Instagram widow.
Well, do you know the electrical industry has the highest divorce rate of any industry in the UK, because in the electrical industry, the amount of travel, like working away, is really common.
I thought you were going to say it's their personalities.
I passed that one.
I knew it.
But it does, and you think, hang on. And then I remember being at a charity ball, ironically, when the EIC put that stat out there, and thinking, to be fair, I haven't been home this week. Yeah. I think shit, and text the wife. But that side of it never gets talked about. That kind of never. And as tradespeople who are out there grafting, whatever part of the trade you sit in, whether it's as a manufacturer, as a wholesalers work for silly hours.
Trades, you don't get home till 7, 8, 9 o'clock sometimes. So
exactly.
I didn't get here till 6.
That's early for you.
Do you know what I mean? And I think that and when you scale, that gets amplified because it needs more of you. Because you don't have the infrastructure there yet. That's why you're scaling. So you go from doing 60 hours to 80 hours to when you sleep, you sleep.
Nice.
Enjoyed that.
Thank you very much for coming on.
No, thanks for inviting us.
Appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers, boys.
Thank you.
If you like listening to Al talk over all the guests, if you've enjoyed this episode of Trade Legends, listening to Al talk over everybody else and people banging on the desk, if you've enjoyed listening to him, watching today, you fucking gonna just stay still, one space, just for a minute.
If you've enjoyed watching this, blah 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 blah. Right, 3, 2, 1, go.
So I'll just not do it.
Go.
Yeah, you sure? I'm gonna shut up for just like a minute. If you've enjoyed listening and watching today's Trade Legends podcast, please subscribe to our channel. It will really help us out. We're a new podcast. We want to do big things, and you subscribing, hitting the little bell so you get notifications would be just great. Thank you.
Hitting the little bell. I was like, yeah, ding, 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 ding.
There is a little bell in there.